What if I told you that over 500 years ago, an entire European town got absolutely body slammed by a plague? But not a sickness you could catch from a cough. Nah, this one was way weirder. It started with one woman. Just one stepping out of her house, completely unhinged, and just dancing. No music, no party, just pure, terrifying compulsion. She danced for days, and another joined. Then a dozen, then 400. And here's the kicker. The city's doctor said, chill, let him dance it out. They literally built a stage and hired a band. The result? People dropped stone cold dead from heart attacks, strokes, and pure exhaustion. They danced themselves into the ground. This isn't some creepy medieval fairy tale, folks. This is the Strasbourg dancing plague of 1518. And trust me, the true story is so wild, it'll make you question everything you think you know about the human mind. Hit that like button if you've ever had a song stuck in your head, because this is that feeling cranked up to 1,000. This isn't some creepy medieval fairy tale, folks. This is the Strasbourg dancing plague of 1518. And trust me, the true story is so wild, it'll make you question everything you think you know about the human mind. Hit that like button if you've ever had a song stuck in your head, because this is that feeling cranked up to 1,000. To understand why a town went bonkers and started an involuntary dance party, you gotta understand the vibe in 1518. And trust me, the vibe was not it. Strasbourg was a free imperial city, so it was low-key wealthy, but outside the fancy walls, things were sketchy. Imagine living on the edge of a nervous breakdown 24/7. That was them first. The Grim Reaper was their next-door neighbor. They were generations deep into the shadow of the Black Death. Every time someone sneezed, it was a panic attack. Second, they were starving. A few years of trash harvests, blizzards, floods meant widespread famine. The poor were eating sawdust bread, looking up at the rich folks and the church, who were just living their best lives in opulence. The class tension was high-key explosive. Third, religion was hitting different. This was right before the Protestant Reformation. The church was preaching a God who was basically mad at everyone, ready to drop a lightning bolt on you for thinking about stealing an apple. They thought everything bad, a drought, a bad hair day, was a punishment. The city wasn't just hungry, it was mentally cooked. It was a massive psychological tinderbox just waiting for the match. And that was one woman named Frau Trophia. Picture this. It's a blistering July day. The air is so thick you could chew it. And out steps Frau Trophia. She starts to move. But this wasn't a celebratory jig. No, her face, according to the documents, was a mask of absolute terror and exhaustion. Her feet were not taking instructions from her brain. She was a puppet whose strings were being yanked by some unseen, messed up entity. For 4, maybe 6 days, she didn't stop. Day and night, her shoes were shredded. Her feet were bleeding on the cobblestones. She'd crash from exhaustion for a few hours, wake up, and immediately the engine would restart. It was a terrifying, solitary protest against reality itself. Here's where it goes from a personal tragedy to a public health crisis. People started watching. And in that high anxiety, hungry, superstitious environment, the sheer sight of this unhinged behavior acted like a social contagion. A few days later, a dozen people joined her. By the end of the month, we're talking about over 400 people caught in this same compulsory, deadly groove. When the city bigwigs, the magistrates, and the doctors finally rolled up, they had to make a call. What the heck was this? Possession? A curse? The official diagnosis based on medieval medicine? Overheated blood? Seriously. They believed there was an imbalance of humors, and the cure was to literally sweat and dance the hot blood out. And here's the most mind-boggling, face-palm-worthy decision in public health history. They said, double down on the dancing. They thought if they just created the perfect environment for them to dance harder, they'd be cured. So the city council, and this is no cap, cleared the main grain market, set up a huge wooden stage, and hired professional musicians, pipers, and drummers. The scene that followed was pure, unadulterated nightmare fuel. Imagine a festival, but it's a death march. The cheerful, lively music of the fifes and drums is absolutely clashing with the sound of hundreds of people crying out in pain. Their ragged breaths and the sickening thud of bleeding feet on the wooden stage. They danced until their hearts gave out, until they had strokes, until their bodies were so spent they simply collapsed and never got back up. At its peak, records suggest they were losing up to 15 people a day. The city's cure wasn't just an epic fail. It was an active accelerator of the disease. They were literally providing the soundtrack for their own mass funeral. Once the death toll hit the dozens, the authorities finally realized, oops, our bad. The hot blood theory was not working. They abandoned science and pivoted to spirituality. Their new diagnosis? A divine curse from Saint Vitus. Saint Vitus, ironically, was the patron saint of dancers. The priests essentially said, y'all messed up and offended the dance saint. We gotta go on a pilgrimage. They banned gambling, banned prostitution, trying to clean up the city's karma. Then they marched the surviving afflicted, some still twitching involuntarily miles away, to a shrine in Severn. The pilgrims were forced to wear bright red shoes, a color symbolizing passion and blood, circle the shrine, pray for forgiveness, and get blessed with holy oil. And here's the crazy part, it worked. Slowly, over the next few weeks, the compulsion faded. By the end of September 1518, the dancing plague was over. The streets of Strasbourg were finally quiet, leaving behind a population that was traumatized and a historical mystery that's kept scientists amped for centuries. So, what's the real deal? Was it a demon dance or a toxic high? Modern experts have two main theories. The psychological theory, mass hysteria. This is the one that historians generally agree on. It's called mass psychogenic illness, MPI, or mass hysteria. MPI is basically a psychological wildfire. It happens when a group of people under extreme chronic stress like Strasbourg in 1518 hits a breaking point. One person, Frau Trafia, has a genuine mental or neurological episode. But because everyone else is so anxious, they interpret her breakdown as a contagious symptom, and their own stress triggers the same symptoms in their own bodies. The mind is telling the body, we are in danger, and the body's response, influenced by suggestion and fear, is this uncontrollable, desperate movement. The city building a stage for them only validated the symptom, making the hysteria spread faster. No cap, your brain can literally trick you into death. The toxicological theory, ergot poisoning. The second theory is a chemical explanation, ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus that grows on damp rye grain, the cheap bread staple of the poor. This fungus contains chemicals structurally similar to LSD. Ingesting it causes crazy hallucinations, severe spasms, and a horrible burning sensation in the limbs called St. Anthony's fire. It's tempting to blame the LSD-like effects, but most experts say, nah. Ergot poisoning is debilitating. People are usually writhing in pain and vomiting. They don't have the stamina to dance for days on end. The truth is probably a terrifying mashup. A population weakened by starvation and low-level ergot contamination making them neurologically fragile was the perfect setup. Frau Trafia might have had a mild ergot seizure, but the overwhelming power of the collective fear and anxiety, MPI, took over, transforming a chemical incident into a full-blown, deadly psychogenic dance. The Strasbourg dancers are not just a bizarre chapter in history. They're a mirror reflecting our own modern world. We see echoes of MPI all the time. From the Tanganyika, Laughter epidemic in 1962, where a group of girls started laughing uncontrollably and it spread for months to modern cases of mystery tics and seizures that break out in schools. Today, social contagion isn't spread by the sight of a bleeding woman on the street. It's spread at the speed of light through your feed. Viral trends, collective outrage, even online frenzies, these are our modern dance plagues. When a collective anxiety hits, whether it's war, climate change, or political chaos, our brains are still fundamentally operating like the scared, hungry citizens of 1518. The story of the dancing plague is the ultimate reminder. When stress is maxed out and flawed authority makes trash decisions, the human mind can literally become a weapon against itself. Peace out and remember to keep it chill. Don't let your inner fears start a dance party. Don't forget to subscribe Unusual History Stories and smash that notification bell. What other historical mysteries should I check out? Drop your suggestions in the comments below.